A father summons his 3 sons and shows them a trampled wheat field. The father instructs his sons to stand guard during the night in order to determine who trampled the wheat, and the sons, in turn, send the youngest, Ivan the Fool, John, to do so. John, who had previously saved a hedgehog, sees the mare's outline while chatting with the hedgehog at night and throws the rope into a misty cloud. The rope suddenly tightens and the mare begins to carry him across the fields and meadows. They fall into a swamp, and John uses the windmills to rescue the mare from drowning. She cries while bound, and the hero, moved by pity, sets her free on the condition that she cease trampling on their fields. The following morning, he discovers 2 horses and a small humpbacked magic foal in the stable. He claims that Mother Mare sent him to seek assistance and support. John leads the horses to the bazaar in order to acquire funds for them. The king orders them to bring their horses to their stables, claiming that they are actually his horses. John asks the foal for assistance after receiving no money, and he calls the horses back with a whistle. The king offers John the position of chief groom, and John accepts. People begin to love John more and more as time passes. The king desires to execute him, but cannot determine why. The sleeping bag prompts him to consider sending a groom for the firebird and then executing him for disobeying the king's command, as he believes John will be unable to locate it. John and Foal set out to find the firebird. After gathering the dream nuts, they locate the bird's refuge and distribute them to it. After consuming all of the nuts, she falls asleep. John affixes the bird to a chain. The following morning, the foal informs us that the bird can only become hot when it is unfettered. She cries while in chains, and John sets her free. The executioners lead John to the block upon their return. He asserts that he captured the firebird but released it, but nobody believes him. The execution is cancelled when the firebird appears after the axe has already been raised above the victim's head. The king, who despises John more and more, sends a suitor for the king maiden at the instigation of the sleeping bag, believing that he will be unable to complete the mission because the king maiden lives in an ice country on a high rock. Nevertheless, John and Foal arrive at their destination. The girl awakens from a dream and tells John she does not want to get married because there are no more heroes, before leaping into the abyss. John rushes after her without hesitation, and at the bottom of the hill they both pick up the skate. The king desires an immediate marriage, but the girl refuses to marry without her grandmother's ring, which she lost in the ocean. John, who has already fallen in love with the king maiden, requests an impossible task from the king so that he can avoid thinking about the upcoming wedding and the maiden herself. The king sends John to retrieve the ring. In the magical roads, John and the humpbacked foal embark on an adventure. After speaking with the sun, moon, and wind, the foal discovers the location of the ring, and he and John fly to the whalefish. As it turns out, the whale is imprisoned for swallowing the ships many years ago, but is unable to free them. Decades later, the ships float out to sea after John causes him to sneeze. In gratitude, the whale sends them a crab, which delivers the king ring. John returns to the girl in the tower and proposes marriage upon his return. John is arrested for attempted kidnapping when king's guards break into his bedroom and arrest him. The king is prepared for marriage, but the bride requests that he bathe in cauldrons of boiling water, ice water, and boiling milk according to his grandmother's recipe. The sleeping bag suggests that the cauldrons be tested on John prior to his execution. The girl tells the foal at night that in the first cauldron it is necessary to throw her grandmother's ring, in the second the feather of the firebird, and in the third the flower of life and death that grows at the end of the world, and then John will live. A foal searches for a flower. The following morning, the king hypocritically declares that he is granting John a second chance and orders him to jump into the cauldrons. In the first cauldron, the girl throws her ring, and John is carried out safely. In the second cauldron, a feather falls, and he is also carried out safely. The foal discovers a flower at this time and learns from it that whoever picks it is awaiting death. Despite this warning, he manages to deliver the flower to John when he is in the third cauldron. John reappears before the young woman, and the king leaps into the first cauldron. A massive bubble erupts from the cauldron and carries the king away. The foal awaits his death with patience, but the king maiden informs him that the flower's words are a test, and if he had not plucked it, he would have died, but now he will never die. People demand a new king, and John becomes one in response. He is getting married to the king's daughter.